Well, not only do I get to follow John Oliver, I get to use his microphone. So, yeah, that was amazing. Thank you. Oh, this is going to be troubling. Good afternoon. When you think of an innovator, think of someone who would come to mind first. So please do me a favor, shout out who you think is an innovator. Elon Musk. John Oliver. Yeah, thanks for doing that to me. It's not enough pressure. Bill Gates. Elon Musk. Delavanti. Yeah. Bon Jovi. Will Smith. Ben Franklin. Perfect. Our culture tends to celebrate innovators in all kinds of ways, right? We build buildings for them. We're in the Ralph Roberts Comcast Center. We make statues. We do all sorts of things, but we put a lot of our innovators on pedestals. We make them sound like they have almost superhuman traits or almost superpowers. Like someone like Nora Dowd Eisenhower. When Nora was Secretary of Aging, she helped expand the PACE prescription drug program to hundreds of thousands of older adult Pennsylvanians here. While she was at the Consumer Protection Division in Washington, D.C., she made sure that older adults weren't victim to scams or predatory practices. Or what about someone like Daryl Bundridge, who has his own fan club? And probably they're all here. Daryl recently celebrated his birthday. Daryl's a big innovator. For some of you may not know, Daryl's superpower of curiosity puts him in a whole new level. He has mentored hundreds, if not thousands, of young people through some of their most difficult times. He's been an AmeriCorps member. He has been the director of a school. He's been a dean of students. And his curiosity has led him into amazing places, helping young people through some of their most difficult moments. Or what about someone like Mike Marsico? Mike Marsico, another fan club. Mike Marsico is the definition of grit. His superpower of grit is only second to maybe Philadelphia's Gritty Monster. Mike is the OG when it comes to gay and lesbian rights. He's been fighting for equal access for decades. These type of superheroes are none other than our sort of most famous innovator of Philadelphia. Wouldn't you claim Will Smith is one of your best innovators of all time? I mean, let's think about it. He helped innovate R&B. He did a little innovation around hip-hop. He's done innovation around all kinds of things, including Genie in the last Aladdin movie. Now, 3 of these people are here today, you probably noticed, because they have fan clubs. So do me a favor and give them a round of applause. They probably will learn later that I stalked them on the internet, and it's super creepy, so I could show you some amazing photos of them. But what these 3 people have in common are ingenuity, curiosity, and grit. Now, most of us define innovation or an innovator as something new, a new method, a new idea, a new focus. But if we look at this from a different lens and think about reframing what an innovator is, and we can think about innovation as something slightly different, that there are traits to innovation. You have ingenuity, curiosity, and grit. Now, a few years ago, I was asked to write a book about innovators in government. I know many of you are thinking that's probably an oxymoron. Wasn't as big of a joke as I thought. I was the director of the Denver Peak Academy, which is an innovation program, one of the largest municipal innovation programs in the country. That program's been replicated by about 25 different cities around the country. And it's led me all over the world to work with different innovators, predominantly in public service. It's also led me to a different focus in my career. I help people or organizations figure out how to see their work and manage their work through ingenuity, curiosity, and grit. Now, let me give you a quick example. A good friend of mine, Joe Doolin, is a strobe, which is wonderful. Joe Doolin is a public servant. He's been in the city of Peoria, Illinois, for about 10 years. He's worked with the code enforcement office there, and there are about 35 employees that work under him. He and his team work every day improving the livelihoods of people in Peoria, Illinois. Now, none of them have ever considered themselves innovators. In fact, many of them have bought into the idea that they were bumbling bureaucrats. They were lazy, they were rude, mean, and even nasty. This team actually believed that they couldn't change what they were doing because it was government. And they work in government. Now, this team doesn't do things that you would consider sexy. Most of us consider their work sort of nothing that we would do, or potentially we take it for granted. They do lead paint removal. Lead paint removal, sorry, lead paint. That's not a thing. They do lead paint removal. They do pest abatement services. They clean up lots. They do landlord and tenant disputes. They do work that has to get done. Now, this team had to reframe what it means to be an innovator. They really had to take a look at themselves. And the first thing that they wanted to take a look at is, look, if you're not happy with your job, it's up to you and everyone there to solve that problem. You have to change your own work. They took that to believe we are in the process of helping people with their livelihood. Our jobs shouldn't be complicated, and the work should be fun, even when it's difficult. They also wanted to take their power back. And what I mean by that is understand what you have control over and what you don't have control over. We often like to innovate others. We rarely like to innovate ourselves. We often blame other people for things. But what we've learned over the course of my work in the last 10 years is you cannot innovate anyone else, especially your boss. Now, this team figured out all sorts of ways, and their ingenuity really took off when they tackled pest abatement services. Instead of sending an exterminator and an inspector, they just sent the exterminator. Their curiosity really jumped when they started to figure out how to work with landlords and tenants by avoiding the courthouse. Figuring out ways to reduce hours and hours of courthouse drama into no drama and working together. Instead of deciding to knock on 100 doors in 100 days, they actually took it upon themselves to demonstrate their grit by knocking on 1,000 doors in 100 days. In doing so, they met people where they were. Now, this team finally realized that they could actually make government better. They became more excited about what they were doing, more excited to get up and do their job. But what's really fascinating is they actually made it fun. Now, don't think this is easy. The first sort of meetings that they had about innovation, only 6 people attended. In the next meeting, about 17. Finally, in the last week or so, they had about 23 of their 35 employees show up to a voluntary innovation meeting. Now, most of us don't think that doing innovation in government is particularly easy. And I can tell you it's not. But everyone that I've ever worked with tells you they would do it again. Most innovation means that you're going to have long hours, confrontational meetings, inevitable moments of self-doubt, with no guarantee that someone is going to thank you in the end. Now, picture yourself around a frame. If we only think of Will Smith, superheroes, and others, do we actually see ourselves in this same frame? Can we find ourselves the same way that Nora, Daryl, Joe, and the many other public servants around the country that are currently innovating in that same place? I know all you have to do is come up and grab a frame. Thank you.